New from ESCO Institute. This is what people are saying about the ESCO EPA Section 608 online interactive course.
Great presentation and understanding of materials. The clarity of topics are consistent, which helps the learning process immensely.
The flashcards, along with the excellent graphics and clear instructions, are fantastic.
I took the 608 core test before I came here and got 45%. After taking the ESCO course, I passed with 85%.
Do you need to get 608 certified? You will find the ESCO EPA Section 608 interactive course on the HVACR Learning Network. The HVACR industry's leading source of online and digital content. Visit us at hvacr.elearn.network.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. We spend a lot of time talking about new technologies and innovations in the industry to try to keep all of us as educators prepared and as an industry prepared for what things are going to look like going forward. There's a lot of tools, a lot of technologies and innovations that make our job easier. But many a times as educators, we might have been out of the field for a little while, and so we have to get a refresh to know what's going on. And that's what we do here on the show, is we make sure that you are very well equipped with the tools and resources that you need to be successful. And we want to know where you're joining in from. Let us know in the chat where you're from. And we're going to spend some time today diving into a technology that just absolutely blows my mind. I'm so excited about this. And we're joined today by Bronwen Pugh. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're very, very, very welcome to be here. We actually are really looking forward to how Conduit Tech is going to help change things for our industry. You know, many of us as educators are at least familiar. Some of us are comfortable. Some, like myself, are a little bit more on the uncomfortable and slow side of doing load calculations. Not always the funnest thing, but many times we're required to have it in our classroom. And sometimes we really enjoy presenting that because it's a vital part of what we do as an industry. Now, what Conduit Tech has done changes the game. So you and I sat down on an introduction a little over a week ago because I was prepping for this heat pump installation that we just wrapped up, and I'll have so much information on that coming forward. We're going to have an e-learning course, a bunch of videos. Katie, thanks so much for joining us. You'll appreciate this, Katie. This is the cool thing for the classroom. So what I was able to do was, because I've talked to Shelby in the past about Conduit Tech, I was very familiar with it. I had not used it myself. And then after I used it myself, I was like, okay, we have to tell everyone about this software because it's such an interesting thing. Kendrick, thanks so much for joining us from Chicago. We got George joining us from Western Kentucky, and I'm here in Brownsburg. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm out of Northern California, just north of San Francisco.
Very cool. I imagine Todd will be on here in a little while. He's in Southern California. He's on here pretty much every week. We have quite a few people from California that joins us. All right, so let's talk about Conduit Tech, and then we're going to go do a hands-on demo, and then we're going to go do some manipulating of this thing, and you're going to learn a tool that is just phenomenal for the classroom. So could tell us a little bit about Conduit before we jump in here.
Mm-hmm. So Conduit, in a nutshell, is that we are an iPad-based application, and we enable contractors to go into a home, scan it using the iPad's LIDAR sensor, create a 3D model, a 2D floor plan. You can run an ACA-certified load calculation, and then visualize the installation for the homeowner. And all of that happens in under 15 minutes. In fact, I just checked. 11.1 minutes is our average from opening Conduit to presenting to the homeowner.
For all of your users.
That's right.
That's nuts. Okay. All right. So So we're gonna use the iPad now. I was looking at that, so we're looking at iPad Pros from 2020 and forward. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. 2020 and
Okay.
forward iPad Pros, they have the LIDAR sensor. It's a little sensor built into the camera box. It shoots out all these little invisible beams of light. It's the same technology that's used in self-driving cars, and we're using it for load calculations. It bounces all around, hits all the surfaces of the interior space, and then those beams of light come back and they form a three-dimensional model with measurements.
Yeah. It's insane. This is so much fun too. All right, so I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna go do an actual scan. So I'm here in the studio. And for those of you who don't know, that my studio is attached to home. So we're actually gonna go in, we're gonna run through a few minutes of doing a hands-on. And then I've already scanned the entire house, both floors. So we'll come back and we'll use that data to be able to look at the total load calculation and how we can manipulate inputs. Like if we're wanting to do forecasting, like say we have an existing home and we're wanting to work to reduce the capacity of the system for the homeowner, we can actually go, okay, hey, if you increase your insulation from this to this, you'll be able to reduce your load by this. And it's just so cool. All right. And in the chat, if anyone has used Conduit Tech, we want to know from you how your experiences have been, because I have yet to find a technician or a salesperson that doesn't enjoy it, because it's such a cool tool. All right, so if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to run on in and get set up, and I'll see everybody here in about, I don't know, maybe a minute or two.
All right. So while we're waiting for Clifton to come back, I'll get started with a quick introduction. So I'm Bronwen Pugh, and I work at Conduit in customer success and also product. I've onboarded over 1,000 HVAC contractors to the platform so far, and talking with contractors and working with them has been my favorite part of being at Conduit. So I grew up in the trades. My dad was a general contractor for his entire career, and my mom worked at CCI Mechanical HVAC, which was in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was growing up. So I grew up working alongside my dad. Some of my earliest memories were being on site with him, toddling around on site, which is probably not a great place for a toddler to be. That's where I was. I spent most of my time and watching the tradespeople do their jobs and realizing each one had an important job, and thinking that was really the coolest thing you could possibly do, was to build a house that somebody could come into, live in, be safe, be warm. So those were really my formative years, and I've had a lot of respect for the trades, a lot of empathy for both the technical and sales challenges that tradespeople deal with every day. And this is really my dream job. I am part of a very cool team founded by Marissa Reddy and Shelby Breger, who are co-founders with energy efficiency backgrounds. Conduit was founded by them in 2022, after they had spent a long time riding along with contractors, talking to them, working with them. And what they were really hoping for was to create a product that would help HVAC pros do their jobs, help homeowners make better decisions, and also be good for the planet. So we have a truly world-class team, and we are excited to show you the product here.
Okay, everybody ready? Here we go. I'm going to get us started. So the camera's going to go away, and we're going to start taking a look at this structure. Okay, so from the get-go, we're going to have to enter in an address, which is critical, right? I'm just going to use one from the area. It's actually my old house, so people don't find where I'm at now. If I'm at my old place, if you want. So we're going to enter it in. And can you hear me okay?
I can, yep.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're going to start putting some basic information. There's a couple different templates that I found. We'll talk about those here in a little while. And it allows us to...
Oh, I think we might have lost audio on you, Clifton. Are you there?
Oh, all right, hold on just a second. Let me try.
You're back.
Let me see. All right, you still getting audio?
Yep, you're coming through.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I need to flip my camera around. So we're going to start scanning. And one of the things that I found, we really need to find a location. And it tells me right on the screen that I need to find a location on the floor. And check this out, right? All I'm doing is aiming the camera at different areas. So I'm making sure that I'm scanning as many straight surfaces as possible, both along the floor, along the walls, along the ceiling. And that LIDAR like you said, it's bouncing off from all of these structures, creating these three-dimensional platforms. So if you look in the middle, you can see what it's actually building, that little three-dimensional shell. And that's just going to be this one room. And I'm going fairly slow. Hey, Maya, how's it going? So I'm going fairly slow so that you can see what we're actually doing. But on my earlier scan, the one that I'll show in a little while with both floors, I was able to skim through this entire first floor in probably 5 minutes. And I spent probably 7 or 8 upstairs because I had a lot more smaller places. I had closets and things that I had to go through. All the bedrooms are upstairs. And then I came back and I had a few like walls that I needed to move just a few inches. I'm horrible about my OCD. I like everything had to be exactly in its right place. And most of them were very close, but I had a couple of walls that I wanted to move. And then I wanted to make sure that every single room had its own name and what walls are associated. We'll show you all how to do that here in a minute. And so I definitely spent more time than I needed, but I only spent probably 30 or 40 minutes doing 3,700 square feet. And so it absolutely amazes me how well this picks up all of the obstacles, all of your windows, doors, partial walls. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each room. We're going to build our rooms out. And let me grab some. See that? Isn't that crazy? So when it sees a wall that wasn't complete, or there's a little bit of a difference when you start moving around, capturing it from different angles, then it completes the entire structure. And so it'll do cabinets, it'll do appliances, anything that has a straight edge that's in that space, it'll actually grab it and dimensionalize that for us. So ideally, how many square foot should we ideally use per room?
That's a great question. So one of the considerations when you're scanning is that you do want to spoon feed the LIDAR software in order to get the fastest, most accurate scan. And really the optimal amount of space that you should scan before pausing it is about 500 square feet. So we recommend that you pause more or less after every room. That's going to do 2 things. Number one, quick, accurate scan. But number 2, we're going to actually give you automatic room assignment, which is going to get you some of our more impressive functionality, like room by room CFMs, your room by room load, etc.
Yeah, it helps break everything down, just like we would if we were doing a complete manual J load calculation. Then we're going to use that information for designing our duct work if it's a ducted system. So after I had built that first room, which I call kitchen, I moved into the next area, and it's so cool. Once it recognizes other walls that it's already scanned, it starts adding the rooms into that 3-dimensional print. I mean, it completely recognizes where you are. So you notice, like, as that little 3D module is rotating, hey, there's a good book for everybody to read. As that module is rotating, it's actually using GPS. It's using the direction that my iPad is so that it gets everything in proper dimension. And so then we have this crazy animated model of that structure. Literally just about 4 minutes or so, we're able to build out these 2 rooms. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to wrap things up here. I'm going to go back into the studio and we're going to pull this one up. I'll actually use the iPad and show you. And we'll look at it from different perspectives, but I think it's just such an interesting way to do a load calculation. So I'll see you all in a couple minutes. If you'll tell us a little bit more history or fill us in on for another minute or so, and then I will see everybody back out in the studio shortly.
Absolutely. All right, so as you could see, that was the scanning portion, and you can tell Clifton is extremely meticulous, which we always love to work with the more meticulous users, but it's actually quite a forgiving software. And after you take that scan, Clifton's going to show you in a minute, you have the ability to edit the scan, adjust walls, add walls, like he was mentioning. So for those of us under time pressure, you can easily, after, breaking the software in, doing 5 or 6 test runs, you can easily get to a place where you're scanning a 2,000, 3,000 square foot house in 5 minutes. And the way I do it, because I'm not meticulous at all, is actually, I'm going to grab my iPad here. I'll kind of show you my pace. Is I'll go like top corner, bottom corner, top corner, bottom corner, top corner, bottom corner, top corner, bottom corner. There I just get my 600 square foot room. So you can tell I just rip through, and it will miss some little things, but I'll usually just fix them up later. Or the measurements are only one part of your load calculation, and you're really calculating that heat transfer area.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on how close you really want to be, how dialed in you want to get, as long as you have other things right, like infiltration, R values, duct load, overall, you're going to end up at the right size.
Very, very cool. All right, I'm trying to reconnect a separate camera here. I've got a camera that I can use on the workbench, and it wasn't happy. There we go. All right, so flip things around here. And so we're actually going to walk through some of this so that we can demonstrate any of the adjustments if anyone has any questions along the way. And help if let's get her that way. Okay. So, all right. So like I said, just an iPad Pro. I actually picked this one up used off from Amazon. It was just a few $100. So it's not a major investment. I mean, you can buy a brand new $1,600 one if you want to, or you can buy a very good one off from Amazon, or I even found a bunch of them on Facebook Marketplace. Okay, so it's just an app, right? This is what I was using when I was in the other room. Let me blow this up and get a little bit larger perspective of that maybe. We'll bring that over there. All right, so I've done a few scans already. Now, the one that I just did was the one on the very top. The one on the bottom was the one I did a couple of weeks ago, where I actually went through the entire structure, both floors, and put in all of my standard data. Now, it actually, because it was asking, when was it built? So, it's 2010 or newer. It asked single story, 2-story. What was the foundation? It's on a slab. It asked for the attic insulation. So there's things that can be adjusted just like any load calculation, but it's got a bunch of really, really cool preset functions to it. And so what I found out of that was, if you'll look at the load on this, I've always wondered, this is a fairly good sized house with the garage and shops, which are conditioned. It's 3,800 square foot, somewhere in that ballpark. And it had a 60,000 BTU furnace with a 3-ton air conditioner. And it's always managed very well. It's done a great job. But I've always wondered what the actual load calculation was on this structure. And within 15 minutes, I had a load calculation of 53,000 BTUs. So I've got a 60% or 60,000 BTU, 92% single stage furnace, which gets me right into that, 55,000 BTU range. And then I actually, which surprised me, I could have actually had a 2.5-ton air conditioner on this structure. They sized it with a 3 to make sure, which a lot of contractors do, and they had adequate airflow. But I actually could have done a 2.5-ton air conditioner on this structure. So when we start looking at this from an educator perspective, this is a perfect tool for the classroom to be able to assign some certain specifications, allow the students to scan and build their own load calculation, and then be able to go back and analyze that. We'll do that in a minute. We'll show some analytics for what each one of these looks like. And so if we go into any of these structures, right, we now have a full articulating 3-dimension, and we also can, if we needed to go room by room, we can actually break these down room by room. If we're going to do duct design, we now can actually look at individual CFMs that are in the different spaces based on what room we're at. All right. Like I said, any questions along the way, I encourage anyone to jump in here. So let's show some different screens from here. What would be your recommendation we do?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a couple of things going on. What we strive to be is we try and give you an accurate manual J calculation, some accurate technical details like your per room CFMs, your equipment sizing. And we try and balance all of that with some really effective sales tools. So I would ask you, if I were onboarding you, for example, what are you trying to get out of the software? Are you using this because you want to close more deals? We've had some wonderful, stories about customers who've been able to use our sales tools to do that. One who I can think of in North Carolina was selling at $3 million a year, so already a very high seller, and started using Conduit and is now at $5 million a year. And we get to hear cool stories like that all day long. So I always think the sales tools are really fun. Why don't we start with those? And then we'll get a little bit further into the more technical aspects. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, I really like that, because one of the struggles that we have in the field is that communication with the homeowner, especially if they have an oversized air conditioning system, which is, in personal opinion, probably 80% of the systems in the United States have oversized air conditioners. And it's because whatever they started with, people along the way went, oh, let's do a half ton larger. We'll give you more. And let's do a half ton larger. And so we end up with systems that are significantly oversized. And so this is a tool that can show very, very quickly to that homeowner and to us what the actual system size should be. And so there's a lot of aspects to that are beneficial to everyone.
Absolutely. And what we experience is that the most effective sales tool is going to be high quality system design. We're just taking that load calculation that maybe hopefully you're already doing in the back office, and we're bringing it front and center. I know for me, growing up in the trades, my dad ran his entire business off of a yellow legal pad and a fanny pack full of dollar bills, so those additional tools can be helpful, showing the work that you're already doing, bringing it in front of the homeowner. And then honestly, just more time talking to customers instead of measuring is another great way to sell. But let's go into some of these fun tools. Let's start with equipment visualization. All right, on the upper right, we're going to tap select. And here you can pick your favorite piece of equipment. You'll notice on the left, we have some of your favorite brands and different pieces of equipment. What we're going to do now is we are going to point your iPad camera on the ground where you want this AC condenser to go. We're going to put a nice outdoor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to put an outdoor AC condenser right here in your studio.
Okay. And then, all right. So we're going to put it on here. We'll just put it so people can see it.
Actually, yeah, great.
We're going to put it on the desk.
Yeah, and then you're going to long press where you want that to go. You're going to long press and gently wiggle that finger back and forth. Now you may have
I have to hit the select?
Yep, you got to hit select.
Let me do that again.
Yep.
All right, there she is.
Now, do me a favor, Clifton. Step way back, capture that photo with the white shutter button, and then come back and show us what you ended up with.
That's great. Yeah, so we ended up setting, and that's so funny because that's very, very much what I have sitting outside. Except now it's actually sitting over on the workbench.
Don't show the wife.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, she knows. I've got stuff on this counter all the time. If it would fit, it would be up here. All right. So, but if I was outside and maybe I was wanting to relocate the system, the customer says, could we put this unit over here? I can actually physically put that unit into that space, overlaying it onto the camera photo.
Absolutely. Yes. Give that homeowner the peace of mind. They know what's coming their way, set expectations with them. What's this going to look like, right? Especially when it comes to like those indoor mini split heads. Your homeowners might have an entire range of opinions about how they feel about having this wall head sitting right here. So it's good to get on the page and align. Great.
Okay. Nice. All right.
Other cool tools, if you tap close, and let's tap close again. Tap back on sales tools. Here's another fun one that I think is neat. You can tap load visualization. Have you seen this one yet, Clifton?
No, I've not seen this one.
Okay, so on the upper right, where it says summertime room temperatures, go ahead and give that a tap. And let's tap on summertime cooling loads. And this is just going to show you how the sun is passing over the home during the day and which rooms are heating up at different times of the day.
What?
Yeah.
Based on the direction of the structure, based on its GPS location.
That's it. Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
My goodness.
Yeah, so we're using the iPad's internal compass, its internal gyroscope, and some satellite imaging and triangulating all of that to figure out exactly which direction is which window facing during the day. As you know, there's a lot of solar heat getting through those windows. So here's your visualization. And I'll actually ask you, what is this good for?
Yeah, for adjusting airflow, for increasing insulation, location of the indoor units. Oh my, there's just so much we can adjust by that. The amount of airflow for that particular space, especially if I need to increase the size of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ah,
So really the theme is using high quality design as a sales tool. Now, the two tools I've just shown you, the equipment visualizer and this load visualization, are often tools that any homeowner can appreciate. And then depending on how technical this homeowner is and how deep they want to get, we have a whole range of other tools as well.
yeah, because I can. Oh, all right. I got a good one. All right. Got some. Okay. I can pull this up and go, I bet your master bedroom back here in the corner gets hot in the afternoon, more so than some of the other rooms, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's where the homeowner's like, how did you know?
How did you
I
know
was
that?
sweating in my office at 4 p.m. Like, yes, right? And then you've built that trust.
Okay. That just adds so much interest from an educator's perspective because it helps us to teach students, or for a contractor, a distributor to teach technicians how the load of that structure is affected by the exterior walls, by the insulation, by the foundation that is on that. And we can truly understand how the load is affected on that structure throughout the entire day, not just a capture in time. Because unfortunately, many times when we're doing a load calculation, we're just grabbing a snapshot of that on a 99th or 98th percentile, not really understanding what it's doing on a daily basis.
Exactly, right. So sometimes it's easy to think of HVAC design as this static thing, but really it's so dynamic. And this is helpful, like you mentioned, not only for homeowners, also for students as you're learning HVAC, to need to accommodate all of these needs in a situation where this home is constantly in flux. And this is a great opportunity to talk about, zoning, heating, cooling ratios, which rooms you would be zoning together, variable speed systems. What if we actually change the glass, from single pane to double pane? How does this affect things? And being able to understand this a bit better.
That is a really good thing to show. This might be a good time. I'll leave this up. We can come back to this one. Do you mind showing me the report that you were using earlier?
Absolutely. Do you want me to show you here on your iPad, or do you want me to screen share?
We can do it from here. Let's show everybody, and then if we need to, we can pull up your report as well.
Perfect. This is great. Let's tap back, and we're going to jump into view reports. Now, there's 4 different reports. The homeowner report is really meant to wow the homeowner. It's pretty simple and sweet. It's also a very popular installer handoff tool, just showing the installers the layout of the home, where indoor units and outdoor units are going, where's the electrical panel, where's the exhaust piping for the furnace or whatever it is. The Manual J report is what's typically used for our very technical performance design shops, and it's also an ACA certified Manual J load calculation that can be used for rebate, tax credit, energy efficiency submittals, things like that. The Design CFM report helps you evaluate airflow and size your supply decks. Will help you target any hot or cold spots in the home. And then your equipment sizing report helps you go from the load using Manual S equipment selection principles to the equipment output ranges that you should be targeting as you're sizing your system. So when you looked at your particular load and you said, all right, so the heating load is 53,000, okay, 60,000, that makes sense. On the furnace side, 25,000 on cooling, okay, that's gonna be a 2.5, 10. That mental math, right, sometimes can be a little surprising when you get into the equipment sizing report and you look at the particular, whether this is a single speed, dual speed, variable speed, maybe there's upsizing or downsizing that you could safely do depending on the equipment type and what you're trying to accomplish in the home.
Okay, can we do that?
We can go anywhere. Yep, absolutely.
All right. Okay, let's just out of curiosity, let's look at that Manual J. Let's go back to what the load calculation actually ended up being for this structure. And so one of the things that I think about, especially as a technician or contractor, it's so important to be able to verify what size this structure actually needs. But another thing that we're focusing on as we move into high performance heat pumps, there's a drive and there's a lot of incentives encouraging it to reduce the load on the structure. There's rebates for insulation, there's rebates for windows, there's rebates for doors, there's a bunch of weatherization rebates encouraging you to reduce the load on your structure because it eventually reduces the energy needed for that structure. So let's say that we have this particular one. I've got plenty. Oh, hold on a second. I think Google's talking to me. I'll be right back. That's hilarious. So I was talking about Manual J, and Google pulled up the show. And all right. It was so weird. All right. So, all right, here's our condition. All right. We have this structure. It's the Beck home. We've already talked to the homeowner. We've already talked to the student about this structure. We looked at it. We've got an idea. Man, we even have like elevation. All right. So if we look at this, we know what our structure is going to be. And we did have, I'm going to touch this before we get out of here. We did have a couple discrepancies, right, that I haven't checked. So it's telling me there's a couple things. There's a couple spaces that I didn't have accounted for. So where would I want to go to check those?
Great. So kind of depends how technical you want to get. But if we're sitting here in the technical Manual J report, you can go all the way to the bottom. It's going to be a lot of scrolling. You do have a nav bar on the right. You can long press on the little gray nav bar and you can get all the way down to the bottom.
And this is all generated just from that 15 minutes of scanning.
That's right. Yeah, you got all your fenestration curves. You have a room by room breakdown. If you did zoning, you could have a zone by zone breakdown. Coming soon, I'm excited to say we're going to have a multi-system setup where you can actually break this space into the different systems, addressing a larger space, for example, and you'll get your per system loads.
Oh, yeah, multi-zone ductless be ideal for that scenario. All right, so I'm actually seeing already the space that there was a discrepancy for. And it was funny. I had an idea that there should be, but I didn't know for sure that there was a void in here for the return air. So this is a framed out chase that brings I'm sure, metal or a flex duct from above, and it's inside of this cavity. So it actually, out of doing all that scanning, it found the space that I was unsure of, and then give me a total dimension on that. So that's
it's kind of a fun part of Conduit. It's so accurate that sometimes when you scan your own home, you'll realize, oh, that must be a chase back there. I never realized. Yeah,
actually, my wife brought it up. So I was showing her this report, and she's like, "Well, what's that?" I'm like, I'll be darned, that's a ductwork chase that I never noticed because of where it's at. It's in the corner here. It's part of this wall, so you don't really notice it. So you don't realize that there is a difference between this wall and this wall until you actually see it, because this wall here is any way you look at it, you don't recognize that difference very easily. And so I was able to find that quite clearly.
Interesting.
All right. Love that. Okay. So let's look at our structure. And one thing I think would be very important to show people is if we were to change, let's say like an insulation factor to see how it would affect the load and the size of the system, what's a good way to do that?
Yeah, and I think this is one of the most helpful features for students or folks who are new to HVAC or older to HVAC and want to get a better handle on their load calculation and the different factors driving the load calculation.
Yeah.
So we have a nice, I don't even know what this feature is called, but if you go back to the job home, yep, and back again, you'll see at the top here, it gives you that total load that you were showing us. And as you change things, there's a few seconds afterward where it will actually show you how much this load went up or down based on your changes. So as an example, let's go ahead and do what you suggested, which is change the insulation in the roof. So an easy way to do this is just the top ceilings there. Go ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to go up to the ceiling.
Yeah, go ahead and edit it. We're going to bring it down from R50. And keep in mind, Clifton, most of the heat in the home is transferring through the roof. So this is going to have a significant effect.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know, I need to go back, but that was really interesting. Okay. So to adjust that, we're going to just edit.
Yep, edit. And you had it right. You're just going to keep tapping. So go ahead and tap on the type of roof.
Okay.
Below roof choice is fine. Keep tapping. Pick your roofing material. Keep going. You got to go all the way to the end.
Okay. So loose fill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Now, just as an example, let's make it really crappy insulation. Let's go to R11. What do you say?
Yeah, because if this was an older home and it had updated windows and doors, everything looked similar, but it had poor insulation. Definitely.
Okay. And as Clifton's doing this, go ahead and make your guesses about what the difference will be in the total load. If you're really good at this, tell us the difference between the load on the heating side and the cooling side.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, anyone in the chat, give me some ideas. If we go from that R50 to an I think I'd have R50. If we go from R50 down to R11 insulation in the attic, there's probably 1,200 square foot of attic space up there. What would that do to the actual load calculation? Boy, I need a countdown timer now.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we started this load at 53,000 on heating, 25,000 on cooling. I'm just looking in the background here. I'm actually seeing it's more like 62,000 on heating now.
I see that. I wanted to hide it from everybody.
Change. Give us a percentage change estimate. How's that?
I'd say it's probably going to adjust it by 7 or 8% anyhow.
Oh, no way. No way. I think we're going to go loads going up by 20%. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm. Now that's a perfect example of how two educated members of the industry could look at something and go, I don't know that it makes a big difference. And then other go, it makes a lot of a difference, and go, well, how do we determine that? The only way to do that is with actual analytics. And this is what we're using this for, is it's creating the analytics to be able to recalculate all that for us in real time.
Tom mentioned something important, which is there's a point of diminishing returns when adding insulation, which is a good point. That makes me kind of rethink this 20%. But okay, did I miss it? Did it happen?
All right, so our heating load went up significantly. Our cooling load did change, but that heating, and you're right, Tom, it is going to depend on the location, which is what's really cool, is that it's geographical. So here, that 60,000 BTU furnace would not have worked. I would have had to look at the next larger furnace to be able to heat my heating load. And my cooling load did now approach up into, it's actually over that 2.5 tons. So I would probably be looking at a 3 ton. So yeah, we are in that at least 10, if not 15% on, equipment sizing, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually curious, Clifton, do you want to tap onto that second story 3D model? Let's go ahead and tap on ceilings on the left. Okay, so you'll notice that this bathroom 3 is assigned the ceiling below roof joist. So this is a good checker, right? Like, okay, do we actually change the ceiling that we wanted to? Mm-hmm. And on the upper right, you can change the room, and you can verify that each of these rooms has the ceiling you would want, which is, also helpful if you have different bedrooms with different ceiling heights, for example.
Yeah, and I love the visual.
Of how you can make those really fine-tuned changes if you need to.
Yeah, it'll break it down and show us each of those spaces. So if I was, maybe down in this area and it wasn't a gabled section where it was, separate, then I could actually recalculate for that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. All right. I am absolutely loving this. Any questions in the chat? Because I'm sure there has to be, because this is just fascinating. Okay. We got it probably about 20 minutes. What else do we want to teach on this today?
Well, we can talk about airflow. We could talk about equipment selection. We could talk about some of the other load inputs like R values, infiltration, duct load. You tell me where you want to go.
I am really intrigued with the duct and the airflow, because that's another tool to help understand a structure. So, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Back up. That would have been equipment visualization or homeowner education.
You know what? I'm actually glad you're here.
Okay.
Let's change course quickly. We're going to take a stop by some of these other sales tools, and then we're going to go into the airflow stuff. Okay?
Let's do that.
stop by comfort survey. Now, from the users that we work with, a lot of our users already have a method of doing this, but this is, an opportunity for you to get a good read on the homeowner of what are their pain points, why did they call you in today, right? Take those notes. And the benefit of doing it in Conduit versus, doing it in whatever other format is this can be included in the homeowner report. So I will show you guys in a bit that homeowner report and how all of this can kind of filter in there. Yeah, so go ahead and take a note or two, and then we can move on. One of our salespeople, Jason Butler, who's up in Idaho, spent 8 years as an HVAC salesperson and is a gifted salesperson, also very good on the technical side. And he frames his entire process, both as a comfort advisor and at Conduit, around what are the pain points. And so for him, this is like mission critical. What's the point of trying to sell something unless you know what the customer wants? So yeah, go ahead and tap save here. And we're going to tap on sales tools again. And let's tap on homeowner education. Now, since you're in education, Clifton, these are some educational slides that can be useful to either show the homeowner on site, or you can include them in the homeowner report. And so again, this just goes to those pain points. What are the concepts that are going to apply to this particular homeowner and this particular home, and just making it a little bit easier to translate that knowledge that's kind of intrinsic to what you're doing and communicate it out to the homeowner and get them to come along with you in the journey.
Educators out there today, I hope you're seeing this, because this is not just a homeowner education. This is a perfect educational tool for our students. If they're going through and they're looking at this, ideally you want them to do their own home and go, okay, what pain points do you have at home? Let's talk about them. Do you know why you have those? And then have some educational content that goes right along with that. So multi-purpose content.
Cool. All right, let's hop into reports.
View reports?
Yeah. And we'll hit the homeowner report, and then we'll go. I promise we're getting to airflow. We'll get
no, this is cool. No, these are all wonderful.
All right. So again, this is kind of the homeowner tool, and also helpful for install team handoffs. So at the top right, Clifton, you'll notice there's an orange and white design. Now that could be your logo. So I'll send you instructions after this about how to upload your logo.
Nice.
And then you got your heating and cooling load, some home details, the 3D model. Moving down, you have your 2-dimensional floor plan. And then,
if this is like emailed to a person, do they still have 2D functionality with it? Or is it just a print?
Unfortunately, it's like a static view.
I'm sure,
Or in a PDF format, yeah.
I get that. Oh, yeah, okay.
And then going all the way down to the bottom, there's actually these like optional toggles. They're all turned off, which means they won't be sent in the homeowner report, and then you get to choose as a salesperson what you want to include in the report. You could toggle on the comfort survey. That's going to be sent to the homeowner. Maybe you don't want to show the room loads. You don't want this person shopping out the load calc you just did for them.
Oh, yeah.
You want to include some of the photos and visualizations, maybe not all. Maybe you took 15 photos for your install team, but you only want to show 2 to the homeowner. The homeowner education modules, you actually want to tap show on the module or modules that you're going to include.
Yeah.
And then you'll notice down at the bottom, I know you mentioned like, oh, it'd be cool to show the homeowner based on a particular, hypothetical building performance upgrade, how it might reduce their load. You mentioned high performance heat pumps. You want to get that load down before you install the heat pump. And you'll notice based on the factors with your particular home, if it's older, if it's leakier, we'll give you the option. You could just toggle the duct insulation on, and we'll tell you how much your load will be reduced if you first insulate the ducts before installing a system.
Oh, yeah. No kidding. Okay.
And then there we go. Our load's going to go down by 7% on the heating side, right? And then on the upper right, under the battery icon, you can tap that little share icon. And this is how you're going to send the report. Yep. Now, a lot of our users like to share the report and use Apple's markup mode in order to annotate this. We also have some very cool annotation tools, being able to annotate the floor plan and annotate your photos that are going to be coming out soon. So stay tuned for those.
Very cool.
But yeah, this is how you're going to share it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Should we talk about some of those other reports?
Yeah, I would really like to see this one. I looked at it briefly for my calculation, but I didn't spend much time in it.
Okay.
Oh, makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. And remind me where we landed on that load. 60,000 for heating?
Yeah, 60,000 for heating, 30-some thousand for cooling.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what you want to do here is ideally pull up your performance data, and you want to figure out for this load, how many CFMs does this system output? Now, we're just going to put in, some dummy data here. So for a 60,000 heating BTU heat pump, for example, what would you put in as the CFMs?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna base it on the outdoor unit. So this one's still probably gonna be in that 1200. Depends on if I'm like 425, 430 CFM. So we'll just pick on a 1200 just for the fun of it.
Great. So go ahead and enter that in the heating flow rate, cooling flow rate. You're going to tap in those boxes.
Oh, okay, I got you. And yeah, let's just say we're going to throw that in just as a comparison for both of them, just for the fun of it. And then update.
Update. And then what it's going to do is it's going to fill out the design CFM. So the CFM that you want to size your supply ducts to, and it's going to tell you for each room that CFM so that you can figure out what's the duct size you need for that room. I personally like to use a ductulator for that.
Yeah.
Your own friction rate calculation. Clifton, how would you use this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm manual ductulator, but this is perfect for looking at existing ductwork, sizing existing ductwork, and understanding if any of that does need to be upsized to get proper airflow into a space.
Yeah, this is most useful for, when you want to put a heat pump into that home that's only ever had a furnace, or you want to put a heat pump in any home in America, and the ducts are maybe too small or too restrictive, and so you're going to have to do some duct modification. You get to do some duct modification. You're going to get paid for that duct modification, and it makes a great use case when your homeowner has been telling you, oh, this particular room, it's so hot, it's so cold. And, well, what do you know? Like, it has a 6-inch duct. It actually needs an 8-inch or a 10-inch duct.
Yeah, perfect justification for ductwork improvement.
Okay.
Man, okay.
And let's check out the equipment sizing report. So this is a nice gut check on your, take your load, divide by 12,000, size up to the nearest half ton method. If you select your equipment type on the upper left, let's just go for heat pumps since we're talking about heat pumps. And this is going to show us a couple options. We can size this heat pump to cooling and put in some backup heat, or we can size it to heating as long as we have the proper dehumidification. So you're the contractor, Clifton. Which of these options do you prefer?
We get pretty humid here, so maybe we look at the dehumidification side of things.
Okay, so you're going to add maybe a standalone dehumidification system, okay? And then assuming you have dehumidification taken care of, fantastic. You can size your heat pump to heating. We know it's going to oversize it for cooling, but latent load is taken care of. We're fine there. You're going to want a variable speed heat pump, and we have these 4 boxes that we need to check. We need to check that at 8 degrees, which is your winter design temperature. You're going to meet the heating load. You can keep a homeowner warm in the middle of winter. We want to check that when that system is operating at full capacity. We're just calling it 47 degrees. You want to make sure you're not oversized, okay? 92,738 or lower. And then you want to make sure that this variable speed system can properly ramp down to below 80% of the cooling and heating load. So you get that nice ramp up, you get the ramp down when you have those part load conditions to meet.
Very nice. And this is all based on manual S construction then?
Exactly. Yep, this is based on manual S2.
Okay. Wow.
Any questions?
No. I'm ready to go play some more. Anybody else have any questions? Any pieces that they would like to see? I mean, we could talk about adjusting design conditions. We can talk about infiltration. One of them that's really cool when we talk about design conditions is that there are times where we have to do custom adjustments for design conditions. And so this gives us the ability to readjust all of these calculations based on the preference of that homeowner. If they want to, change the capacity sizing we have that ability, because right now it's based on 75 indoor cooling, 70 indoor heating, all dry bulb, which is very common, relative 50% relative humidity. So it's all very, very simple things to readjust. I love how it's grabbing the local weather station too for all my local input.
Yeah, we'll pull 2021 ASHRAE data based on your nearest weather station. So for the last few minutes, Clifton, you can let me know what you'd like to do, but it might be interesting either to pause for questions, or I could give you a little test and we could have you go in and do some of that scan correction, scan editing, adding windows, adding walls. We can maybe build on a hypothetical room. So you let me know where you want to go.
All right, here's a great question. Charles, thanks for joining us today. It was so fun hanging out last week. I got a bunch of content that I'll be sharing with Charles and I and the whole JCIE and Copeland and Field Peace team. So with the load calculation, is this only a residential tool, or could we use it for light commercial applications?
Great question. So it's based on the manual J8, which is intended for residential and light commercial. And we, as you can imagine, get calls from users all the time who are just doing weird things. They're like, oh, I'm doing a church, I'm doing a bakery. And then obviously, a load is a load. It tells you what is the heat transfer, what's the heat loss and gain, right? You could take a load on a cooler or a refrigerator if you wanted to. Everything has its own load. It's independent and agnostic of the particular system. So we're happy to work with you for one-off situations. But if you were to call me and say, I'm doing like a spa, I'd say call somebody else. It's out of our range of expertise.
Unless you know all of the actual conditions, which I'm sure you could, because it really comes down to changing all your parameters. If I'm moving from a joisted structure to an exposed beam structure, I actually have that ability. I can adjust insulation factors. So all we're really doing is adjusting the structure itself. And then if we need adjustments in infiltration, which is a place, depending on if we had any fresh air coming into that, there's plenty of things that we could actually do to readjust the load on that structure.
Internal occupancy will probably be different for light commercial. Your internal loads will be different. So there's some things that change a little bit. Mostly it's the same concept. It's that same heat load calculation, temperature, level of insulation, area.
Is there a way to adjust for occupants? That was a good one you just brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. Down at the bottom, you have all these like advanced inputs. You can tap on internal loads. And there's your occupancy. You can make it estimate if you want to.
Great. Yeah. I mean, simply we can just change this structure from a residential into a light commercial.
Yeah. And some of our users really push the boundaries and go more on the heavy commercial end. But yeah, that's there.
Wow. Very cool. Spray foam insulation. Is that one of the options? Well, if we looked at, not really, because that's just the insulation.
So
there's your encapsulated
attic, which is those spray foamed at the roof deck, spray foam at the gables. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely it does.
For walls, we have all kinds of different construction types. We can get, really into the structural foam panels and all kinds of fun things.
Man. Yeah. I don't even know where else to go from here. My brain's on overload. I hope everyone else is.
I'm going to quiz you. You ready for the quiz?
Yeah, and any questions, please, now's the time to do that. I encourage everyone to reach out to Conduit Tech as well. What's a good way that we can get a hold of Conduit Tech to learn more about the software and its availability?
Yeah, I hope you will reach out to us, whether you are interested in purchasing Conduit or whether you're not and you want to share with us why you're not and give us advice and feedback. We would just love to hear from you regardless. It's actually the most valuable thing that I think could come out of this podcast for us is just to hear from you. You can visit getconduit.com or you can reach out directly to us. feedback@getconduit.com is a great email to reach out to. You could always try me, but you'd have to spell my name. It's Bronwen@getconduit.com, which is BRONWEN. And I would absolutely love to hear from you.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it is awesome, Charles. There's so much that we could dive into with this. Right. Well, and that's how I was. I knew that we were going into this job. I was going to be adjusting some insulation. I wanted to reduce the load to make sure that it fit right into the capabilities of the system that we were doing the install for last week. And this gave me the ability. I was able to run through in literally less than 10 minutes, and because it's a single floor, in less than 10 minutes, do the entire home and be ready for printout. And I'll share that with everyone as we start putting together these videos and trainings. And Tom, it is. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we did a hands-on demo, is that is an amazing instrument, whether you're a contractor, whether you're an educator. This is a way to make load calculations fun. Thank you so much for joining us, HVACR. Okay, we still got a few more minutes. Any last things we want to show off while we're here? I was curious of this one.
Did you want to go into scan editing, scan correction? Would that be fun for you?
It would. Yes, let's do that.
Okay, go ahead and tap on one of those 3D models. We can change your first story or your second story. I actually hate to touch this job. I can tell you were so careful with it, but
that's okay. We can adjust now.
Just if you need it. Okay, so you can tap Manage Scan on the upper right. And let's tap Edit Scan. Now this is going to give you the ability to change and adjust anything that didn't come in properly in the scan. Now the scans are extremely accurate. Like I mentioned, they're tested accurate within 1 to 2 square inches. That being said, there are places where it's likely to not pick up. For example, the back exterior wall of a closed closet. It can't see through the closet door, right? The back exterior wall of a stairway. So sometimes there's little gaps in there.
Here's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Here is that cavity I forgot about. I knew it was upstairs on the second floor. I hadn't even thought about the first floor. This home actually has the system in the attic, or in the second floor. Ductwork comes across the attic, comes back down. So this is a chase on the second floor that I didn't even realize was there until I recognized it on the first floor and went, oh yeah, that's the cavity that comes up through for that ductwork. And the way that I'm assuming this little piece here is, it's probably because it's squared off evenly on the outside. And there's no way for us to know this inside dimension because I mean, we know the dimension, but we can't scan it because it's a hollow face. So I would probably want to readjust these to square this off.
Fabulous. So a great way to do that is, I actually like that you started here with the bird's eye view. I find that the most helpful to get a sense of where the walls are, what gaps there are, what needs to be changed, is kind of the floor plan view. When you're ready to edit, you can move into a shallower camera angle. So you can rotate, so you kind of have more of a head-on view of this. And the rotation, yeah, you got it. The easiest way to move a wall is just to single tap on the wall. So go ahead and tap on one of those. And yeah, it's kind of fine work here. You want to zoom in. I personally like using the Apple Pencil for this. What you can do now, Clifton, is you can long press on the purple part of the wall, and you can drag the entire wall. Go ahead and just move it to where you want it to go.
I might be getting rid of it, honestly.
Yeah, there you go. You could get rid of it. Before you get too excited and before you delete it, let's just play with it a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and move that wall somewhere that's a little further away, just so we have more room to play with it. Maybe, yeah, out there is perfect. Go ahead and put your finger on the yellow arrow, and you're going to drag that yellow arrow to extend the wall, to shrink the wall.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
You can always tap toggle pivot point, which is that black button. And now the arrow is pointing in the opposite direction.
Look at that.
You can rotate the wall. Right above toggle pivot point is that white.
Get out of here.
And of course, you can delete it. We'll just delete it now because, like you said, you probably don't need it.
Yeah, for those of you that spend hours every night on social media doing absolutely nothing, you should be doing this. This is fun.
It's fun.
Okay, tell me. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete this component.
Yep. And now that you know how to do it, I'll let you go ahead and play with the other pieces of this wall. I'll watch you and grade you.
All right, so if I want to toggle that pivot point, that's going to stay. So I need to toggle it from this way, and I'm going to bring that thing back in. Nice. And then this one is going to get,
so you're going
to save it. And then I want to see this from the top. I'm probably going to move just this wall. And I'm going to that.
Toggle the pivot point. You got it.
And then let me bring that down a little bit. Make sure. So I want to toggle that, and I want to bring that in. And I want to. So I went too far.
Beautiful.
Somewhere around there. I want to save that one.
And another little note, just because Clifton, you're so meticulous, is that you can be a little rougher with it. For those of us who are less meticulous, it's quite forgiving. And you can leave little gaps like this or little overlaps, and you're going to get a great load in the end.
Gosh, this is so cool. Well, then you end up with a full 3-dimensional scan, like even for my own home.
Yeah, I just sent mine over to a plaster specialist who needs to replaster the bathroom. My daughter was breakdancing in the shower and broke the shower pan.
Yes. That's a great story, by the way. Okay. Yeah, I love it. So my next one is, I'm actually, so we built a barn and I'm finishing on a living quarters in it, a barn dominium. And I'm getting to the point where I'll be finishing the walls sometime here in the near future. And then I'll do a separate build of it. And then we'll actually design the entire system from ground zero and see what's going to be the best insulation that I should use for it.
Wow.
And we may go backwards because I want to run a 120 volt heat pump on it so that I can run it on emergency power easy. And I can run off from solar backup off of a 120 set. And so I'm probably going to end up with like a 6,000 or 9,000 BTU heat pump. And then I can actually manipulate my insulation to be able to determine what insulation I should use to be able to work with the equipment that I want to select.
That sounds like a great project. I hope you'll call me and let me work on it with you.
I absolutely will. All right, a lot of fun. I'm so glad that you spent some time with us today. And we've got our resources. Once again, what's the best email to use to be able to contact Conduit Tech?
The email is feedback@getconduit.com, or you can ping me directly, Bronwen@getconduit.com. And Clifton, thank you so much for the opportunity to show our technology to your audience. The work you're doing, the work ESCO is doing is so inspiring, and we're just really proud to work with you on very cool tools that support the high standards you guys are teaching. Thank you for having me. Absolutely. And thank you all so much for joining us. I'll have this wrapped up as a finished video because I've already, and Mr. Tebby's wanting to come back and watch it tomorrow. I think we got his curiosity. And I love that. Tom Tebby is still in the industry learning all the innovations and the new changes that are happening, encouraging everyone to stay up to date. And that's what we do here. We make sure that everyone is up to date with what is changing in our industry. So Conduit Tech, thank you so much. And we will see you all again next week on Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. Bye, everybody.